Now, let's look at the theory questions. Now, in civic education, the first, you are required to answer 4 questions, and you have 3 sections. And you're expected to answer at least 1 question from each of the 3 sections. Now, the first section is national ethics, discipline, rights, and obligation. Now, question 1A says define human rights. What are human rights? Now, human rights are those inalienable privileges, entitlements, and the claims to be enjoyed by all human beings because they are human, and in order to promote essential existence of these people. So there are those privileges, inalienable privileges we enjoy because we are humans and because they are meaningful for our existence. Now the next question says, suggest 4 conditions under which human rights can be violated in Nigeria. Now, these are circumstances under which, when we say it, we say there is violation of human rights. Now, number 1 is declaration of state of emergency. Now, a state of emergency is declared by the government when government gives unusual and excessive powers to the law enforcement agencies, the military and the police. They are given unusual and higher power to maintain normalcy whenever there is terror or whenever there is uneasy in a particular region. Now, when you have that, human rights are being violated because people's home can be searched indiscriminately without warrant. People can be harassed, people can be arrested indiscriminately. So, declaration of human state of emergency can actually deny people's right. Imposition of curfew. Whenever government imposes curfew, which at times can be associated with even the state of emergency, but curfew is different. When government imposes curfew, of course, freedom of movement is denied. Curfew limits the time which citizens are expected to come out. Also, when one is convicted by the law court or imprisoned, if one is found guilty of violation of any of the laws, and especially criminal law, and is imprisoned or condemned to death, now the person's right is being violated or denied in this circumstance because the person can enjoy certain rights as a result of the offense the person has committed. Now, also, when there is outbreak of contagious diseases like conjunctivitis that people usually call in quote Apollo, when you have a disease like even pandemic, any disease that can be contaminated or chicken pox, now you see that somebody's right can be violated because there will be isolation and quarantine of the person. And when you isolate or quarantine person, I'll deny that person freedom of association. Now also, when there is violation of judicial independence or compromised or partial judiciary, human rights can be violated because people can't get justice from the judiciary. Also, when you have outbreak of war, in fact, during war, the major preoccupation of man is how to be alive, not how to claim any right. So people can lose their property during war. People can be dispossessed of, and people can be killed during war, and you can't sue any person. So during war, violation of laws of libel, slander, and sedition can bring about violation of human rights. Now, remember, you have freedom of expression, say your mind, but law of libel says that you don't defame somebody by what you write. Law of slander says you don't defame a character of a person by what you say. Now, sedition has to do with saying or writing something that instigates the people against violently revolting against their government. So when you have this, this limits human rights. So because the question is asking you also the limitations to human rights. Now, emergence of dictatorship, the form of government can limit human rights. Now, if you have a military or dictatorial form of government, any dictatorial form of government that will not believe in the rule of law, violate people's rights, you cannot criticize, you cannot even freedom of association, because military will always ban political parties. So when you have that, human rights will be violated. Then, during government developmental projects, now, people can be dispossessed of their private property. You know, the government has the right to, if the government wants to construct road where you are living along that, but government will demolish that house. So government can, in order to actually carry out a project, dispossess people of their right, of their property, which violates right to private property. Then, when you have natural disaster like climate change, earthquake, drought, flood, famine, of course, people's rights can be denied naturally. All these things will destroy even your property naturally. So people's rights can be violated. Even at times, there are things government can declare emergency whenever you have such natural disaster, and of course you see rights being violated. Then when there is civil strife like riots, people go on riot and paint, like students are going on riot. You see them destroying properties. And when you have that, who will you hold responsible? So people's rights are violated when you have riot or strife. Then when there is insurgency, insecurity, and terrorism, if you have this human rights, these people actually devote their life to violation of human rights. Then jungle justice and mob actions. When people feel that the best way is to take laws into their own hands and commit offense by killing maybe an armed robber, of course, that person's right, that victim's right has been denied. Then, when you have poverty, it denies people their right, because in most cases, a poor person cannot, because at times to get justice for rights violated requires the service of a lawyer, which a poor man may not usually have. So poverty as a condition itself can lead to violation of human rights. Then when you have crimes for frauds, it denies people. Fraud, or a victim of fraud is dispossessed of his property. So it's a violation of human rights. Then when you have secession threats, the activities of secessionists, you see, if you go to the eastern region, you see where in Nigeria, you see where they say, okay, on Mondays, people should not come out and go to work. Now, freedom of movement is being denied. This is our secessionist movement. Now, when you have ignorance and illiteracy, you have a situation because of illiteracy and ignorance, people don't know their rights, meaning that they are vulnerable to human rights violation. Then, when you have immunity clause of some officials of government. Now, in immunity clause, you talk about a serving president or governor is not subject to arrest, cannot be taken, cannot be arrested, tried for any offense committed. Now, some people under that immunity clause can violate people's right because they can get away with it unless they leave or vacate that seat they occupy. Then, harmful traditional practices can be a violation of human rights. Example, when you're putting trademark on somebody, female genital mutilation, child betrothal, these things are violation to human rights. Then, also, when you have military coup, it denies even generality of people their right to choose their government, to vote and be voted for. Then, also, when person is under investigation, of course, when you're under investigation, interrogation by the law enforcement agents, one, right to freedom of movement at that time of investigation is being denied. So these are some of the circumstances under which human rights can be violated. Now, if you have, now the next question, explain three reasons for which it is necessary to entrench citizens' rights in the Nigerian Constitution. Now, there are reasons why we can entrench citizens' rights in the Constitution. One is to protect the rights of the citizens. Now, the best way to protect human rights is to ensure that these human rights are enshrined in the Constitution. Two is to make people have knowledge of their right, because by enshrining human rights in the Constitution, people can easily know their rights by reading the Constitution. So it helps them to know their Constitution. Three, it enables citizens or people to easily reference their rights when violated. Now, you can point out that in Chapter 4 of 1999 Constitution, Section this, that this right is provided and this right has been denied. So it provides for easy reference of human rights. Now, also another reason for enshrining human rights in the Constitution is to prevent dictatorship and arbitrariness from those in power. Because when you actually enshrine human rights and the Constitution, now the government is bound, and those in authority are bound to follow the provisions of the Constitution, because they are limited by the provisions of the Constitution. So by so doing, they will also respect the rights of citizens. Another reason for enshrining human rights in the Constitution is to promote the rule of law. Now, rule of law is promoted where human rights are well protected. And the way to effectively protect this human right is to enshrine human rights in the Constitution. And if you look at the rule of law, one of the major cardinal principles as initiated by Evidice, it talks about liberty of persons. And this liberty of persons can be promoted through the Constitution. Also, these human rights are enshrined in the Constitution to promote citizens' participation in the affairs of the state, because some of these rights enumerate even political rights of citizens, which gives them rights to contest an election, to vote in an election. So it promotes the participation of citizens in the affairs of the state. Now, also enshrining human rights in the Constitution gives citizens sense of belonging. It gives citizens sense of belonging. How? Now, by giving you a right as a citizen and making it constitutional matter, it gives that citizen, because these are the rights of citizens, give the citizen that sense of belonging and boost patriotic spirit in the citizens. Now, another reason why human rights are enshrined in the Constitution is also to make citizens know their rights. So these are the reasons why human rights are enshrined in the Constitution. Okay. Now this question says, identify 5 qualities an individual must possess to be qualified as a responsible parent. Now, there are qualities. This question tests you on the qualities of a responsible parent. One is self-discipline. That is, the parent must be able to control his or herself. Then the second one is ability to lead the family in the right way. The parent should be able to guide the family morally by teaching the right way, by teaching them the right morals. Then another quality is that parent must have love and care. You should be able to love, you should be able to care for people. That quality must be there. Then tolerance and endurance, because in a family requires ability to put up with differences. Children you are going to have in a family are not the same, so you must be able to take care of their differences and also endure what comes up from the family. Then also relevant knowledge of family planning and improve standard of living. The parents must have that relevant knowledge of family planning and improve standard of living. Also, hard work. Another quality is hard work. The parent must be hard working parent. Then, positive role model. The parents must possess a positive role model to the child. Then also the parent must be patient, is another quality, able to wait in especially difficult situation. Now, understanding and maturity is also another quality of a responsible parent. Person should be understanding and person should show maturity in handling issues in the family. Then consistent good character, not parent that compromises, parent that show consistently good character. It's another way to show responsible parent. Also empathy and emotional support to the children and other members of the family. It's another quality of a responsible parent. Then ability to reward appropriately, that to show the right reward, to reward children for the job well done, to reward members of the family for any good work is a quality of a good parent. Good parent must show respect. It's another quality. Ability to respect the dignity of members of the family. Then also ability to encourage children to participate in decision making is another quality of a good parent, that being democratic in character. Then good temperament, not a person that is hot-tempered or leniently tempered. So the person must have a moderate temperament and also must be flexible. And that quality is flexibility, not being too strict. So a good parent must be flexible and have a sense of right guidance and counseling. So a good parent is expected that a parent will play the role of counselor. So must have that sense of guidance and counseling. Now, a parent is also expected as a quality to be effective in communication. It's one of the qualities of a good parent, must effectively communicate ideas or what the person thinks. Then also good listening skills. The person must be able to pay attention and listen to the children. Then good morals. A good parent must have that good moral and also show it to the children. Then sense of responsibility. A good parent must show good and high sense of responsibility and the sense of fairness and impartiality. A good parent must not be partial, should not be partial in any ramification. And also, a good parent must be humble. So these are humility. These are the qualities of a good parent, that responsible parent. Now, this question, the B part of this number 2 says, in what 5 ways do the rules of responsible parenting contribute to the curbing, to the upbringing of good citizens in the society? So, they're asking you the role of responsible parents in the upbringing of good citizens, that's the importance of responsible parent. Now, what the rules include: 1, teaching children or what's moral and religious values of the society. That is the role of responsible parents to teach the children the moral and the religious values of the society, so that these children will live according to these morals in their life. Then supporting children to gain sound and quality education. That is why parents send their children to school. So it must support them, provide the facilities, pay the school fees, provide the materials needed to learn, and give all the necessary support the child needs to have good and sound education. Also, it is the responsibility of a good parent to train the children to be law-abiding citizens. Now, a child is expected to be law-abiding based on majorly what the child has learned from the parent. Then, inculcating lofty virtues such as honesty, tolerance on the children. So the parent is expected to do this to promote good citizens. Then instill discipline in child within the family unit. So a parent is expected to instill that discipline must come first from the child to make the child to have control to do the right thing and the appropriate with the appropriate manner at any given situation. Then training and preparing children for leadership role in the society. Now, leadership qualities, leadership roles of children start from their family, which the parents train them by assigning roles to them to play in the family. So, parents also train children to be peace-loving in the society by what they teach their children, the kind of values they inculcate in their children, make them to be peace-loving in the society. Then they serve as role models to their children. A good and responsible parent serves as role model. And serving as role model will help them to bring up good citizens in the society, because the children will now replicate the models they learn from their parents. Now, they must have effective line of communication so that they will promote effective communication in their children and words. Now, also, the responsible parenthood in upbringing of children is expected to have engage children in productive activities and not destructive activities. Activities that when children engage in, they become creative, they learn skills so that they will be very productive in life. So it's one of the ways that, because when they do this, they learn to be productive to the country as a whole. Now, also, make children responsible and independent. To bring up responsible and good citizens, parents must teach the children to be responsible and independent, and that is to depend on themselves, to work hard. Then parents are also expected to bring up responsible citizens, respect the opinions of their children, so that children will grow and be tolerant and respect other people's opinion. Then they also guide the children against development of psychological problems. Teach your children not to go into depression whenever anything happens to them. So it is the duty of parents to teach the children how to manage any emotional problems, so that will help them to be good citizens in the society. Then also, parents provide parental guidance and counseling for their children. So this counseling will also help them to become good citizens. Then teaching children their rights, duties, and obligations. So teaching of children their rights, teaching of children their duties as citizens start from the parents. So when children learn those things and practice them in society, they become good citizens. Then mentoring children for effective participation in the development of the society. Now, responsible parents are expected to mentor the children to participate in the development of the society by taking the children to be involved in community development services of their society. Then inculcating the spirit of self-confidence in children. Make the children to be self-confident. It will help them to be good citizens. Then promoting positive attitude to work. That is, take every work you're doing seriously and make sure you get something positive out of the work. Comes from the parent, and it will make children to be responsible citizens. Then also encouraging social interaction among children. That's how to relate very well, effectively with other people. Is also one of the ways to make them good citizens. And also allowing children to make their own decisions, though not in all circumstances, but to make them take responsibility for certain decisions they make. Then give exemplary leadership, because this is how children will learn how to be the right leaders, because they are the futures of tomorrow. So parents must teach them the right leadership by showing exemplary leadership. And finally, training children to be patriotic. That's to love their country, to develop this zeal for the affairs of their state. So these are some of the ways responsible parenting contributes to the upbringing of good citizens in the society. Now, the next question, which is number 3, A, says, identify 5 reasons for which it has become increasingly difficult to maintain low rate of accidents on the road. Now, this question tests you on the causes, what people do that cause accidents, the causes of road accidents. So let's look at the 1, overspeeding. That is driving beyond the speed limit provided for a particular place and for a particular vehicle. So it can cause accident. Then overloading. Some people overload their vehicle. So that overloading, at times some vehicle can fall because of overloading or break down along the road, causing accident. Now also poor road network. When the road is very bad, it can cause accident. Bad roads usually cause accident because 1, they will cause vehicles to destroy the road, and also some vehicle can even fall when plying on bad road. Also, disobedience to traffic rules, traffic regulations and signs. When people don't obey traffic signs, traffic regulations, of course, it will cause accident because these regulations and signs are actually put in place to ensure safety on the use of road by the people. Then poor maintenance on conditions of vehicles. Now some people put vehicles that are not roadworthy, vehicles that are not safe to drive, that are not good enough. So these vehicles, some will fail brake when there is need to use the brake. So poor vehicle or condition of the vehicle can cause road accident. Then also indiscriminate parking of vehicles, that parking vehicles in the wrong places, can cause road accident. Then also tiredness on the part of the driver. When the driver is tired and not supposed to drive, maybe as a result of ill health, as a result of stressful work, it could be as a result of drug. When the driver is tired, the driver can make mistake and this can lead to accident. Then also poor driving habits. Now, some people have very poor driving habits. They are very careless, they are very reckless when using the steering. It can cause accident on the road. Then drunkenness or driving when one is drunk. That is why traffic rules say you shouldn't drive when you are drunk. So when people are drunk, of course, they don't actually see the road or even understand what the vehicle is doing properly. So it can cause road accident. Then illiteracy and ignorance or poor knowledge of road signs and of traffic rules and regulations can cause accident. An illiterate driving may not understand some of the signs, some of the rules of the traffic. This can make this person to continuously violate these rules, and of course these rules are put in place to prevent accident. When the person continuously violates this rule, it will lead to accident. Then avoiding safety gears, that is seat belt and helmet. Now when people don't use those things, it can cause accident. Then distractions while driving. Distraction, discussion, eating while driving, making phone calls while driving. So these things can cause road accident because some of the things can appear and you don't know that certain things is happening before you because you're being distracted. Because in driving, high concentration is required. Then another one that can cause poor vision or other health impairment. Now when the driver driving cannot see clearly, has poor vision, of course it can cause accident when on the road. Now licensing of unqualified people to drive. Now when people that are underaged or not trained to drive are licensed and are driving, of course it can lead to accident because they don't really know how to use the road. Then disobedience of traffic laws. When people flout the traffic laws which are put in place to actually maintain a smooth flow of traffic and prevent accident, it can cause road accident. Now, traffic officials conniving with some road users or compromising the standard. That is when one is supposed to be intercepted for violating traffic rules, you allow the person to go. It can cause road accident because it will encourage the person to continue to flout those traffic rules. Then poor weather condition. When it rains heavily, it can cause accident on the road. And finally, stray animals crossing the roads. That's animal factors. You have cows, cattle, fowls, goats crossing the road. At times, in the course of trying to dodge these animals, accident can occur. So these are some of the reasons for which it has become increasingly difficult to maintain low rate of accidents. So these are the causes of accidents. Now the next question says, highlight 5 measures that can be adopted by the Nigerian government to reduce the rate of accidents on the roads. What are the measures that can be adopted by our government to reduce high rate of accidents? Now, a simple one, provision of good roads and maintenance of the existing roads. So government should provide good roads and make sure that the existing roads, the ones that are worn out, are actually maintained and fixed. So it can help because that will bring about smooth flow of traffic and reduce accident. Now, provision and the erection of traffic lights is very important, especially at road crossings. So whenever you have that or junctions, it can help to guide the flow of traffic, which will now in turn reduce accident. Then enactment and enforcement of traffic laws on the part of government, because we're talking about what the government should do. The government should make effective traffic legislation, laws that will guide the use of roads. So they should adopt those laws. So if we have these laws and people obey, teaching people these laws, and people obey these laws, of course, it will reduce accident on the road. Then periodic inspection of vehicles on the road. That's why we have vehicle inspection agencies. We have agencies that will inspect the vehicles, whether they are roadworthy or not. So that will tell us, that will help to eliminate vehicles in poor condition, eliminate them from using the road. So making drivers, road users, to make sure that their vehicles are properly maintained before they are put on the road. Then punishment of traffic offenders. Yes, government should take up measures and ensure traffic offenders are punished to serve as a deterrent to others, which will now help people to use the road appropriately. Then establishing and equipping traffic enforcement agencies. It is the role of government to establish agencies that will now enforce traffic rules and regulations that will now reduce road accident. Also, it is the duty of government to introduce road safety regulations and civic duties into school curriculum. That's the government to make sure that road safety, traffic rules and regulations are taught in schools by entrenching them, enshrining them in school curriculums, so, as we have in civic education. Then organizing seminars and awareness programs by government. Government can do that through its agencies, especially the agencies that enforce traffic rules like Federal Road Safety Corps. So the government can use this agency to train, to create awareness, to enlighten people on road usage. Then also issuance of driver's license only to qualified persons. So government should ensure that driver's license are given to only those who are qualified to use the road. And also provision of highway codes. The codes to be used on the highway should be provided by government. Then construction of speed runs on roads. So a government can provide speed runs or bumps on road that will limit the recklessness, the reckless speed at which some drivers use when driving, especially sensitive areas where you see children will cross, school areas, market areas. It will help to reduce accident. Then installation of CCTV cameras by the government on the road will also help to reduce accident, because people will know that the eyes of government and the agencies are watching them. And also, government should improve vehicle maintenance policy. That set up standard that a vehicle must meet before that vehicle can be put on the road. Such standard must be set by the government for people to always ensure they use the right vehicle on the road. Then the government can also provide road marks and signs. Government should provide road marks and road signs and punish corrupt and compromised traffic officials. So government should ensure that if there is any official compromising, maybe taking bribe, allowing people to get away with violation of traffic rules, whenever you have that, the government should ensure such official is punished appropriately. Then construction of footpaths for pedestrians. It's government's role to provide footpaths where pedestrians can walk, including the zebra crossing, overhead crossing. Government should provide all these things for pedestrians to avoid the reckless use of the road by pedestrians, which also causes accident. It is also the duty of the government through its agencies to clear any form of obstruction on the highway, because one of the causes of road accident is obstructions on the highway. It could be obstruction from an accident, it could be obstruction from armed robbers, or even government agencies like the police. So government should clear those obstructions on the highway. Then government should conduct research through its agencies on how safety on the road can be improved. Then proper demarcation of roads. Government should properly demarcate roads so that each part we know the kind of vehicle that will ply on such path. It will also help to reduce accident. Then government should organize periodic training for officials of road traffic regulatory agencies. Government should ensure that all these officials recruited into the agencies that enforce traffic rules must be periodically trained. Then government should introduce road safety clubs in schools. From there, children will begin to inculcate the culture of maintaining sanity on the road whenever they use the road. And of course, government should improve the remuneration of traffic officials to reduce the compromise and taking of bribes from the public to allow them to go away with violation of the traffic rules and the regulation. So these are some of the things the government can do to actually reduce the rate of accidents on the road. Now, let's go to section B. Section B deals with national ethics, discipline, rights, and obligations. Now, let's look at the first question. Emerging issues in the society. That's what it's dealing with. Now, let's look at this question. It says, outline 5 negative consequences of cultism on its members in the society. That's the effect, the negative effects of cultism on its members. What are they? 1, untimely death. You know, cultists are known for violence, and they're also known for inter-cult conflict, which is usually violent in nature, which leads to death. So it can lead to untimely death. It can lead to social stigmatization of such member. Now, if somebody belongs to cult and people know the person, now that person can be isolated. People will not like to associate with the person. People will discriminate the person. So that is social stigmatization. Then it makes the person to be truant, always doing things the wrong way in the society, not upholding moral values of the society. So it can make the person to be truant. Then poor academic performance is another effect, because the person will concentrate more on cult activities and will not pay attention to his academic activities, which will lead to poor academic performance. Now, lying, theft, and other unethical behavior will be part of the person's behavior. Now, the person will always lie, because of course the person will not like the parents to know what he's doing. Now, also you see the person will steal. Theft will be part of it, because cultists are known for stealing. Then financial reckless and extravagant spending, just to please members of the cult group. So you see financial recklessness, they go for clubbing, they spend money that they don't even have because they have to steal to keep on going. So it can be there. Then another one is strained relationship with peers and friends and the families because their values will no longer be in line because they will accumulate negative values, and this will not be in line with the values of members of the society. So you see that the person will have strained relationship with them. Then prostitution, sexual promiscuity, and the same-sex attraction will come into it because these are some of the attitudes, attributes, or behaviors associated with cult personnel. So you see prostitution among them, especially the girls, when they are involved in cultism. Then also a self-isolation. Now, when the person has among his or herself people that are of upright behavior and of good values, the person will self-isolate, will not like to mingle with others. Now, risky health issues like contracting HIV, AIDS, and other sexually transmitted diseases can be an effect because this person will engage in promiscuous life. Even at times, some things they do for initiation, using of blood, which is not usually tested before using, can also make the person to contract some of these diseases. Then drug abuse, addiction, and drug abuse can be the effect because most cult members, most of them engage in taking drugs, hard drugs. So in order to keep them going, to carry out those immoral activities, those unethical activities they carry out. Then also pursuant of vendetta, that is vengeance mission. If you kill a member, if you harm a member, they must go after you. It's usually what they do. So such person will have this mindset of vengeance all the time. Whatever wrong you did to the person, no spirit of forgiveness, person must go after you. Then it can lead to thuggery. The person can become a thug and a gangster, a thug to politicians, a corrupt politician. Now there will be another effect is illegal possession of firearms. The person will now possess firearms, guns. The person will now possess them illegally. So it's another effect. Then also the person lives in fear. A cult person lives in fear because he feels that his life is always in danger, especially from the other cult group that he does not belong, because they are always aggressive to each other. Then loss of respect and disregard for lives and property. The person does not have any single regard for people's life. So can easily take people's life away, can easily destroy people's property. Then loss of moral values and good character. The person does not have sense of moral values and good character. Then emotional instability and insanity. The person will lose the right emotion and also expulsion from the school. That is, the person can be expelled because cultism is punishable by expulsion from school. So if one is found guilty of cultism, a consequence is that the person is expelled from the school. Then also involvement in examination malpractice because the person does not have time to read. The person will always be indulging himself in malpractice in order to pass because he's very much preoccupied with cult activities. Then also unruly and antisocial behavior is another consequence. The person's behavior will be quite unruly, violent, and antisocial, cannot have good relationship with people around him. Then, of course, another major consequence is involvement in crime. The person will be associated with one crime or the other. And of course, another consequence is imprisonment. This is when the person is found guilty, because imprisonment is a penalty for cultism. So if a person is found guilty of cultism, the person is usually imprisoned. And finally, it can lead to suicide. At times, some of them can have emotional trauma, addicted, can't leave cult group, threats from other members of the other cults can make the person to finally give up and take his or her life. So these are the negative effects of cultism. In what 5 ways can responsible parenting assist in reducing the high rate of cultism in the society? Now it's talking about the role of responsible parent in reducing cultism in the society. One, by providing sound and quality education to their children or words. If parents provide sound and quality education, send them to the right school, monitor their progress in school, provide the facilities, make sure they are occupied with their school or educational activities, it will help to reduce cultism because children will be constructively occupied. Then good home training can also help if these children are coming from good homes, because part of the reasons why they join cult group is because they are not coming from good homes that inculcate the moral values of our society. So good home training can help to reduce cultism. Then discouraging unnecessary relationship and association. Now, it is the duty of the parents to reduce cultism from childhood, ensure that this child does not join or associate with people with negative influence. And that is why parents must monitor the peers of their children and make sure their children leave the negative companies or people with questionable characters. Then also, educating children or worse about the dangers of being involved in cult activities. So parents should, the education about cultism must come from parents. So they should teach their children about cultism and shun them, to tell them to avoid cultism. Then provision of basic needs of their children, because it has been seen that one of the reasons that parents join cult, children join cult, is because they are poor. Their basic needs are not provided. So parents can help to reduce it by providing basic needs of their children. Then also, parents should cooperate and work hand in hand with relevant agencies by giving them the necessary information to help to reduce cultism. Then inculcating positive values of children such as kindness, honesty, hard working, and truthfulness. Parents should ensure that those values are inculcated in the children. And also teaching children to be law-abiding citizens is a key to reducing cultism. When children are taught to be law-abiding, avoid joining, doing anything that is against the law, which includes cultism, it will help to reduce cultism. Then discouraging children from participating in negative social networking. It will go a long way. When you talk about negative social networking, you're talking about bad friend association. You're talking about also from the social media, the participation of social media, the negative ones. So parents should help children to avoid that. Then training children to become responsible, peace-loving children. Now, if children are trained to be peace-loving, of course, it will help them to shun violence, which is part of cultism. Then serving as exemplary role models to the children. Parents can serve as role models to their children by what they teach their children and how they behave. So parents should not join cults. They shouldn't be members of the cult. They should be role models to what they want their children to be. Then they should have effective communication. Listen to your children, hear from them. There should be good communication between parents and children. Then the parents should also provide proper guidance and counseling to their children. Now also, inculcating in children and what spirit of self-confidence. They should teach them that self-confidence. They should also involve full involvement of children's day-to-day activities. They should be involved in children's day-to-day activity, monitor what they are doing. And also, parents should discourage children from watching television programs that promote violent and indecent or immoral behavior. They should discourage children. Such movies should not be in their homes. And of course, children at times join cults because of frustration or people. So also showing children love and caring can also help to reduce cultism in the society. So these are some of the things parents can do to actually reduce high rate of cultism in the society. Now, question number 5. It says, outline 5 reasons for which those who tested positive to HIV/AIDS are being discriminated against in the society. Now, this question is testing you on the reasons for HIV stigmatization. That stigmatization, discrimination of those living with HIV. Now, there are many reasons. Number 1 is the disease HIV/AIDS is a life-threatening disease that can take one's life. So because of that, people don't want to associate themselves with somebody that has it. So they fear the disease. Also, people fear being infected. They feel they can be infected by going close to a person that has it. So they isolate the person, they discriminate the person for fear of being infected. Also, another reason is fear of death. Because this is a deadly disease that can kill. Now, people don't want to die. Because they don't want to die, they discriminate and avoid people living with HIV/AIDS. Another reason is myth and misconception about HIV/AIDS. Now, some people see HIV as, at times you hear people say that it's a curse from God, that God is using it to punish those who are committing adultery and fornication. Now, because of this misconception, this myth people have, ignorant belief people have about HIV, it makes to discriminate people living with HIV. Also, lack of understanding, lack of knowledge of HIV, what it is about, make people to discriminate against those living with HIV. Also, the high treatment cost of HIV, because a patient of HIV must be taking his or her retroviral drugs to continue to live. No person wants to live his life on drugs permanently until he dies. So people avoid it because of this. Then also, irresponsible media reportage on the epidemic. The way the media report and present the picture puts fear in the people, and because of that, it makes people to isolate those living with HIV/AIDS. Self-protection consciousness. People want to protect themselves from disease or anything that can threaten their life. So that consciousness of self-protection causes people to discriminate those living with HIV/AIDS. Now, lack of legal redress against discrimination of people living with HIV/AIDS. So there is no law against discrimination of those living with HIV/AIDS. Because there's no law against that, people continue to discriminate them. Then the nature of the disease is terminal and incurable. Now, nobody wants to contract or be infected with any disease that cannot be cured. So that alone is another reason why those that have HIV/AIDS are being discriminated. Then failure to sanction people discriminating those living with HIV/AIDS. Failure to sanction them. When the government fails to sanction those discriminating, that is punish those discriminating those living with HIV/AIDS, because at times you see them being sacked from their place of work because of their disease, and the government does not do anything about it. Now, because of this situation, you see people discriminating them. Then also, visible condition of those living with HIV/AIDS, especially when those symptoms of HIV begin to manifest on the patient. Now, those symptoms, the visible condition of the person, will make somebody swear never to have this kind of disease. And of course, they won't like to go close to such people that have the symptoms of HIV/AIDS. Then also, fear of exposing HIV/AIDS to medical officials. Now, people fear to expose their status to medical officials, because medical officials, of course, we tell them what they have to do. So they don't want that. Then intolerance and lack of empathy for the plight of those living with HIV/AIDS. So because people are intolerant of them, people lack that sympathy and empathy for them. They continue to do that. Then illiteracy and ignorance among the people. Now people are ignorant, they have not read, they don't understand about this HIV, how it goes. So based on that, they discriminate against those living with HIV/AIDS. Then inadequate information and awareness. When people don't have enough information and awareness about HIV/AIDS, the status and how it is being transmitted, now it can make people to discriminate against those living with HIV/AIDS. Then associating HIV/AIDS with already stigmatized behaviors. Example, promiscuity, homosexualism, lesbianism. So they see it as, because they believe that this is a consequence of irresponsible behavior. So they see HIV as something that has exposed one's irresponsibility and immoral behavior. So because it is associated with that, so a person that has HIV is tagged and therefore discriminated. Now, people living with HIV are seen as irresponsible also. That's another reason for this stigmatization. Then religious beliefs of some people about HIV, and also how religious associations talk negatively about HIV can cause people to discriminate people living with HIV. Then difficulty in assessing treatment and managing HIV/AIDS. Now, there's usually difficult because when you go to where people receive this antiretroviral drug, it is usually difficult to get these drugs. It takes some strenuous processes to get them. So because of that, people don't want to go through such, and because you must rely on these drugs. Then looking down on HIV victims by the people, because people usually look down on those that have HIV. Is enough reason for people to say, I don't want to get HIV and I don't want to associate with those living with HIV. So these are the reasons people tested positive to HIV/AIDS are being discriminated. Now this question says, in what 5 ways does the contraction of HIV/AIDS impact on the socioeconomic life of the victim? How does it affect the socioeconomic life of the victim? 1, untimely death. It's talking about the effects of this on the victim. Of course, it can lead the victim to untimely death, because if not well managed, if the victim does not take the antiretroviral drug, of course, AIDS will cause the person to die. Now, it will bring about depression and low self-esteem on the victim. To bring about depression and low self-esteem is one of the effects on the victim. Then another one is it will increase level of poverty, because 1, the victim can lose job, because if the person is not self-employed, the employer can ask the victim to go. And also the victim will spend money to live on the antiretroviral drugs. So this can increase the level of poverty. Then increase dependence on family and society. The victim of HIV, having lost the job, will now begin to depend on the family, will be a burden to other members of the family. Then another one is it leads to broken home, marriages, and family destabilization. Now, when somebody has HIV, that's a couple, that is either a wife or a husband has HIV, and the other does not have, of course, broken home will set in, because one will leave the other, because nobody wants to get HIV/AIDS. So it can lead to broken home. Of course, like we have said, it can lead to stigmatization and discrimination of the victims, when people look down and isolate and discriminate the victim of HIV. So it can lead to that. Then also, it makes the victim very uncomfortable in the society. The victim becomes all the time uncomfortable, because this is something you cannot cure. And also, there's high dependence of drugs. It makes the victim to always and live his entire life depending on drug, because drug will become part of the victim's life, because you need to take antiretroviral to remain healthy. Then it can bring about self-isolation and withdrawal syndrome. Now, because people discriminate the victims of HIV, now it can make this victim to withdraw from his or herself, from other people. So it can lead to that. Then also poor nutrition and malnutrition, because the person is poor. And maybe if the person does not have people to take care of him or her, of course, it can lead to that poor nutrition. Then, of course, there will be poor academic or job performance because this person will underperform. The person is depressed, uncomfortable, will not concentrate. This will lead to underperformance, both in academics, if the person is a student, or in job, if the person is a worker. Then also it can bring about memory loss, which is one of the effects of HIV/AIDS. So it can lead to memory loss. Then, of course, the person can lose his or her job. It can bring to loss of job by the victim of HIV/AIDS, because some employers, when they test their workers, if you see HIV positive, they can ask the person to go. So the person loses job. Then loss of reputation. That's the person's image will be at stake. The person will lose that prestige people used to accord to the person. So another this thing the person will suffer is the person will be denied certain rights, especially in the cost of stigmatization. The cost of stigmatizing the person's rights will be violated. So violation of right. Then neglect by family members due to prolonged nature of the disease. At a stage, the family members can decide not to be taking care of the person and neglect the person. Then also decrease in standard of living. If the person is the breadwinner of the family, the standard of living of the family will drop, especially when the person loses his job. And we have to always take drugs to remain alive. And finally, increase in expenditure on medication, because this person is to live perpetually on drugs. So this thing will bring about increase in expenditure of the person. So these are the ways the contraction of HIV impacts on the socioeconomic life of the victim. Now let's look at this question. Question number 6. It says, highlight 5 major empowerment skills that youth require for self-reliance in Nigerian society. What are the 5 major empowerment skills that they need? Now, this question tests you on types of youth empowerment skills. Now, they say you should highlight. 1, you have life coping skills that enables one to adapt in his environment. 2, we have manipulative skill that has to do with the use of hand to make things. We also have intellectual or cognitive skill that boosts one's understanding and reasoning and ability. We also have creative and artistic skill that can make one to design things that will appeal to people or entertain people. So it's also part of the skill. We also have communication skill that aids one in communication with other people, both reading, writing, and also speaking. Then interpersonal human relations skill that has to do with how you relate with people, promoting how you relate, interact, and stay peacefully with people. Then also vocational and entrepreneurial skill is also one of the skills, vocational and entrepreneurial. Then we also have leadership organizational skills. Now, leadership organizational skill are skill that will help you as a leader to lead and guide others. Then another skill in youth empowerment is decision-making skill. Skill that will help you to analyze choices and make the best choice out of alternative. The motivational skill is another skill in youth empowerment. Skill that help you to actualize yourself properly. Then negotiation skill, especially in business, how to negotiate, even in conflict, how to negotiate is also one of the skills in youth empowerment. Then we also have goal setting skill that teaches people how to set their goals appropriately, and the team building or cooperative skills. So these are the skills that are needed by the youth for self-reliance. So these are the self-reliant skills or empowerment skills. Now, let's look at this question, the B part of number 6. It says, state 5 reasons for the establishment of National Youth Service Corps. State 5 reasons. Now, these are the reasons for establishing the NYSC. Remember, NYSC was established in 1973 by General Yakubu Gowon after the effect of the Civil War. Now, the reasons for them establishing is 1, to promote unity and diversity and national integration in Nigeria. Remember, you were taught that one of the ways to promote national unity in Nigeria is through NYSC. So to bring people, remember, it will involve youths serving in a tribe or ethnic group different from their own to appreciate our diversity. So it's one of the reasons. 2, to inculcate discipline in Nigerian youth by instilling in them a tradition of industry at work. So it inculcates that discipline of industry at work. Then give Nigerian youths the opportunity to learn about higher ideas, goals of national achievement, social, cultural advancement of the society is also another reason for establishment of NYSC. Then another reason is to instill positive mental attitudes in Nigerian youth through shared experiences and appropriate training. Because these people, members of youth service corps, they are trained during their camping and also through what they do, because they work for that 1 year, they get the appropriate knowledge. Then another reason is to encourage Nigerian youth to build self-employment skills in order to help them become self-reliant. Now, during youth service, people are exposed to some self-employment skills, some vocationals that can make them to be self-reliant. Youth are exposed to these things. Now, another reason is to contribute to the accelerated growth of the national economy, because these people are contributing to the GDP of the country through the work they are doing, because they work. So they are producing and they are paid for it. So they are contributing to the national economy. Then also to foster development of common ties among Nigerian youths, because these youths are coming from different tribes of the country. So to promote this togetherness, this common tie, because it will expose people to make friends from people of other ethnic groups different from theirs. Then to instill in Nigerian youth sense of national consciousness, corporate existence, and shared identity. So NYSC is also established to promote that sense and awareness of common identity among Nigerians, and also to work towards the same goal as members of the same nation. Then it is also created to ensure effective utilization of skills of Nigerian youths in the area of national needs. So to use the skills of these youth corps members in areas of national needs. Example, these people are usually used as presiding officials or presiding officers during elections in Nigeria. So they serve as ad hoc officials of INEC. So also, another reason is to remove prejudice, myth, and erroneous beliefs among Nigerian youths about Nigerian of other ethnic and religious group. Yes, if you're in your ethnic group and you grow there, you have a particular perception about some ethnic groups. But it is when you have opportunity through NYSC to serve there and mingle with these people that this myth and this erroneous belief about them will be cleared. So it gives you a better way, opportunity to appreciate this diversity. Then another reason is to expose Nigerian youth to the varied way of life of people in different parts of the country. That's the differences in our culture is exposed through this NYSC, and people get to appreciate better the culture and diversities in our culture. The another reason is to encourage Nigerians to avoid religious intolerance, because people can serve in a place that the religion is predominantly different from their own religion. So it will make them to boost that tolerance, tolerate other people's religion. Then also, it is established to promote free movement of labor. Now, many people have ended their life, that is residing where they served. Now, that is mobility of labor. Then, another reason is to encourage employers to hire qualified Nigerians youths regardless of their state of origin. Now, people at times are retained where they served, in the place of work or in establishment they serve. So it's also part of this. And also to prepare Nigerian youth for leadership roles in their society. Now, this is one of the services people give. It's a mandatory service to one's country, to Nigeria. So it also prepares them for leadership role in our country. And finally, to give Nigerian youth practical on-the-job experience for future employment prospects. Now, because these youth corps members work, it gives them that experience that is usually prerequisite for hiring them, for hiring workers. Because in some places of work, they talk about 1 year, 2 years experience. Now, a youth corps member, somebody that has served can say, I have done this work before as a youth corps. So it becomes a person's experience. Now we go to the last section, which is section C. Now here we have question number 7. Question number 7, it has 2A and B. Now it says define political party as a pillar of democracy. Now, political party is a politically organized group of people that are set up to form or control the government. That's the aim, is to form and control the government by contesting and winning elections. That is what political party is. A group set up or formed with the same ideology, that by people of the same ideology, to contest and win elections in order to form and control the government. Now, the big question says, highlight 6 ways of enhancing the credibility of democratic elections in Nigeria. Now, it's asking you simply how to promote free and fair elections in Nigeria. Now, there are many ways to promote free and fair election. 1, ensuring the independence and impartiality of the Electoral Commission. Now, the independence of Electoral Commission in the sense that it should not be under the influence of the ruling party or any party. There shouldn't be political or necessarily political interference. And also, the second one is political neutrality of the Electoral Commission. Now, the Electoral Commission should be politically neutral. It shouldn't be part of any political party or support any political party, and therefore, members of this Electoral Commission should not join any political party. Then, there should be fair delineation of electoral constituencies. That's these electoral districts, for the purpose of electing representatives, should be fairly and justly divided. It shouldn't be divided in such a way that undue advantage is given to a particular set of people. Then another one is registration of and compilation of credible voters register. Now, the electoral body must register and compile credible voters register, not voters register that are padded with people that are not supposed to be there, like underaged citizens. Then another one is public display of voters list. That's the voters list must be publicly displayed for verification. Now, this is where people can identify who are those that are supposed to be in this particular polling station. Now, adequate security of electoral personnel, materials, and voters. Now, security should be provided to protect electoral personnel because these people are usually attacked by politicians that want to win at all cost. So security must be given to them, and also voters must be protected by the security from any form of intimidation from politicians. So when you have this, you have credible election. Then enforcement of secrecy of voting. That is, what we mean is that there should be secret balloting. Now, secret balloting is the type of balloting where the voter's choice of candidate or party is not known to any other person. Now, this will help the voter to vote without fear or favor or any form of intimidation. Now, another one is electronic transmission of election results and public announcement of result immediately after counting. Now, their results should be electronically transmitted. That shouldn't be waste of time, because wasting time and moving of these results can be intercepted by people that want to win power, win at all costs. So once after election, it should be electronically transmitted, and results should be announced immediately once this upload is received. Then also there should be strict enforcement of appropriate laws against underage voting, double voting, and impersonation. Now, laws, Electoral Act should be strictly enforced, and underage voters should not be allowed to even register to vote. Then transparency during election and the counting of votes. Now, during the election, it must be done publicly. People must see what others are doing, though they will not see their choice of vote. Counting must be done publicly. PDP, APC, people must see it. The counting should be done publicly, should not be done secretly before the INEC official leaves that polling unit. The counting must be done and result recorded. Then also, provision for the challenge of election results in tribunal and courts of law. Now, people should be free to contest the result of any election. So it should be there. And the adequate provision of these electoral tribunals and courts should be there. Then also, adequate training of electoral officials. They should be trained, and also trained on the ethics of their duties. They should be trained to boost free and fair election. Then, adequate remuneration of electoral officials. Electoral officials should be well paid, so to stop them from taking bribes from politicians in order to aid them by compromising to rig election. Then, funding of electoral body from consolidated account or financial autonomy for electoral bodies. That is, they should be paid from independent account that is not and cannot be manipulated by any arm of government. Then, periodic review of electoral laws to cater for emerging electoral issues or situations. So there should be periodic review. Electoral laws should always be reviewed so that it can take care of lapses or issues that will come up from election. Then also, effective sensitization of the public on the dangers of rigging and malpractices. Thus, the electoral umpire and even government and its agencies must always sensitize the public on the do's and don'ts during election, and also the effect of electoral malpractices, so that the public will not be used to perpetrate malpractices. Then discouraging corruption during electoral processes. This should apply to security agencies and electoral officials. They should be taught and trained to avoid corruption during electoral processes. Then there should be poverty alleviation program. Now, why poverty alleviation program? Because people fall prey to thuggery, to being used to perpetrate malpractice, because they are poor. They don't have any means of providing their basic needs. So when people do that, so if government can reduce poverty, it can reduce the tendency of people availing themselves to be used to perpetrate electoral malpractice. Then use of modern technology in the conduct of election like card readers. So modern gadgets can be deployed to conduct free and fair election. Then strict enforcement of law against buying of votes, that is vote buying, should be enforced. Law against buying of votes should be enforced by the government, and those found guilty should be strictly punished. Then making political offices less attractive is one of the most important steps to aid free and fair election. Now, people see election as a do or die affair. Why? Because political offices are very attractive. There are many privileges associated with it. So, especially financial attractiveness of these offices. People become billionaires just by occupying political offices. So, when such attractiveness is removed, it can increase free and fair election, because people will not see it as a do or die affair. Then also ensuring the independence of election tribunals. Now, the election tribunals should not be interfered with, so that they can dispense justice without fear or favor. Then also ensuring effective watchdog or election reporting rules by the parents, by the press. Now, the press should effectively play their role, monitor election effectively, and report without any form of censorship from the ruling party or any powerful personnel. So that will help to also boost free and fair election, because the role of the press is very essential in free and fair election. Now, ensuring easy collection of voters' card by registered voters. Now, registered voters should easily, there shouldn't be stress which can discourage people in collection of voters' card. So people can easily access and collect their card. And also, existence of vibrant civil society organizations as watchdog that will serve as election observers will help to promote free and fair elections. So these are the ways free and fair elections can be promoted in a society or enhanced in the society. Now, let's look at question number 8. Now, question number 8A says, explain the following forms of civil society. Now, this one says pro-democratic groups. Now, what are pro-democratic groups? They are a collection of people advocating for human rights of individual and as well the establishment and practice of democracy. So these are groups that devote their cause to the practice of democracy, to ensure that democracy is practiced, and also to ensure protection of human rights in the society. And this group example include Campaign for Democracy, Civil Liberty Organization, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. So these are what we call pro-democratic group. Now, the B says labor groups. We are talking about civil society. Now, labor groups are groups or civil society groups made up of workers who are members of labor unions that protect the interests of their members by influencing public and corporate bodies in issues that border on workers' salary, welfare, condition of service. Now, these are a group of workers that formed a group in order to protect and promote the interests of all the workers in such group, especially by influencing government policies and also corporate organizations. Now, these issues border on things like wages, salaries, welfare of their members. Now, example of this group, you see Nigerian Labour Congress is there, Trade Union Congress is there, even Academic Staff Union of Universities is there. Now, Nigerian Union of Teachers, that they are labor group workers. So this organization of workers that seek to protect and promote the interests of their members. Now, we also have professional groups. Now, professional groups as a civil society are bodies are bodies with common interest aimed at regulating the work ethics of their members and influencing government policies that will promote career advancement and other opportunities. So these professional groups are those that want to maintain their profession, the interests of their profession, the ethics of the profession, and make sure that the environment they live in are enabling enough to promote their profession. Now, these professionals here, you see people like Nigerian Union of Teachers, Nigerian Bar Association, Nigerian Medical Association, Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, Nigerian Union of Journalists. All these people belong, and others, they belong to these professional groups. Now, the D says religious group. Now, they are religious organizations as civil society. They are religious organizations that promote the faith of their members and fight for their religious welfare, as well as ensuring peaceful coexistence among Nigerians. Excuse me. Now, these are the people that want to protect and promote the interests of members of their religious faith in public, and making sure that the policies of government does not infringe on the rights of their members, and to make sure that their religion is well protected in the state. Now, this is where you see organizations like Christian Association of Nigeria, that is CAN, Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. They are religious organizations. Now, another organization is, the next question says, students group. Now, student group as a civil society organization are advocacy platform for students to advocate for improved students' welfare, social justice, good governance, and a better funded educational system. Now, these are groups that are established to protect and promote the interests of students, especially in the case of funding education, in the case of welfare of students, in the case of getting justice for students whose rights are being violated. Here, you'll see groups like National Association of Nigerian Students and even the Student Union Government. They belong to this group. Now, another group they asked us question on is gender groups. You know, these things, we are looking at types of civil societies. Now, we also have gender groups. Now, gender groups are groups of non-governmental organizations that are committed to promoting gender equity, equal opportunities, and human rights for all. Now, these people want to bridge the gap between gender to protect and ensure that there is equal treatment of all gender groups in the society, especially that of women. Now, in this case, you see groups like Women Rights Advancement and Protection Action. You see Diaspora African Women's Network. You see Moremi Institute. You see Wife of Soldiers Association. So they are usually women group that want to ensure that women are equally treated the way men are treated, are given equal opportunity like men in the society. Now, the next group we are going to talk about human rights group. That's the last group. Now, human rights group are a collection of individuals and non-governmental organizations dedicated to human rights advocacy and protection of rights of individuals. So they are groups that dedicate their cause to the protection and promotion of human rights in the society. Now, civil liberty organization is an example. Amnesty International is an example of human rights group. Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is an example of human rights group. Human Rights Watch is an example of human rights group. Then, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights is also an example of human rights group. All what they do is to promote and ensure that human rights are being respected in the society. Now, we go to the last question, which is the 9th question. Now, this question says, enumerate 5 reasons for which the public service in Nigeria has not been proficient. Now, this question tests your knowledge on the problems of public service in Nigeria, which you did this in SS2. Now, there are many problems. It's not limited to the 5. We have inadequate funding of public service. Now, inadequate funding makes them, one, unable to have the necessary facilities to make their work effective. Inadequate funding, when you talk about public corporation, which is a public enterprise that is established to render essential services to the public, inadequate funding will make it not be effective in rendering these services because it needs money to adequately carry out its activities. Also, when you have bribery, another problem is bribery and corruption. Now, when you see public officials or people serving in public service taking bribe, tips from members of public before they can carry out their official activity, that is, using their office for private benefits, even when they are paid to do the job. When you have such situation, then this is another problem the public service is having. Another problem they have is negative attitude to work. Now, the public servants regard government work as a no man's work that does not require any seriousness, any effectiveness. And that is why it reflects, this negative attitude reflects, one, time of going to work. You see them not being punctual. Some can go 10 a.m., 12 a.m. to work. You see how they attend, they can leave their place of work without accounting for where they went. So that negative attitude to work is another major problem they have. Then another problem they have is politicization of public service. Now, politicization comes from the ruling party. Now, at times, public service is made to give service in order to attract political patronage or support to the ruling government, and not just in the interest of the people or the public they are meant to serve. Now, politicization can also be in the recruitment and appointment into the public service where political considerations are given and people are employed based on political patronage. So it is being politicized. Even their activities are rendered for political reasons. Then another problem they have is bureaucracy or red tapeism. Now, when you talk about bureaucracy, remember public service is a high-scale organization that has formal rules and regulations that guide its activities. Now, most of the actions or activities of public service depend on rules and regulations that are being followed. Now, because of this, people can address emergencies. Quick decisions cannot be taken by the public service. So, bureaucracy or red tapeism affect them over dependence on routine. They must follow rules and regulations. So, it's one of their problems, and it makes them not to address emergencies. Then, poor condition of service of public servants, that is, they are not well remunerated, at times like their counterparts in the private sector. So it's another major problem of the public service, poor remuneration, and at times, poor condition of service, and at times, this thing encourages them to take bribe. Then also colonial influence. What do we say about colonial influence? Now, our public service is bequeathed to us by our colonial masters. It's not a homegrown public service. It's the public service of our colonial masters. So because this is not a homegrown public service, we are struggling to make it to be very effective in our country, or to make it adapt to our issues. Then another problem is problem of nepotism, tribalism, and favoritism. Now, this is especially in the case of employment, appointment, and promotion. Where the person is coming from, tribe, is given consideration. Favor is used as a yardstick instead of merit. So this thing is one of the problems of public service. Then overstaffing and redundancy. Now the public service is overstaffed, which is a fact. Because many people are given jobs based on political patronage, based on this nepotism and tribalism to favor a particular person. So you find people not actually producing and doing something. So you see redundancy of people in the public service. Then we also have the problem of inconsistency in government policies. Now these people are responsible for implementing public policies of the government. Now, at times, the government is inconsistent in it. At times, the inconsistency can come from frequent change of government, and at times, reshuffling of the cabinet of the government. So, all these inconsistent policies made the public service to always adjust in implementing this policy to another one. So, it affects their effectiveness. Then, another problem they have is frequent change of government, or what we call political instability. Now, the public service we carry out, serve a particular government, help a particular government to develop policy, only for another government to come to scrap those programs and policy and start up with another one, which public service we have to adjust to adapt to the new government and the policies of the new government. So it's one of the problems they are having. Then another problem the public service is having is inadequate and deteriorating state of infrastructure and tools. Their equipment are not well maintained. Now, because they are not well maintained, they have poor equipment and facilities needed to actually carry out their activities. Then poor and inadequate training of manpower. They are not trained. Otherwise, the government does not have any specific program for them to ensure that these public servants are continuously and well trained. So because of that, it's a problem to the public service. Then also lack of meritocracy in appointment and promotion makes those in different offices not very effective in discharging their duties. Then poor organization. At times the organization of poor service, the way they carry out their job is poorly managed. Then non-accountability of public servants. At times they don't give account of their stewardship. They don't take responsibility for their actions. It's a problem today. Then wrong use of public service for political patronage. That's politicization of public service. Then also inter and intra-departmental conflict. Now, at times, there could be conflict within a particular ministry or department of government or agency between departments of that ministry. And at times, different agencies of government can clash, especially when they perform similar functions. So you see different public agencies clashing. Then also political interference. Politicians, the ruling government, the ministers, the political heads, they don't give the public service free hand to run and carry out their activities. They usually interfere with the activities of the public service. So it's another problem they are facing. Then indiscipline, especially on the part of public servants who have no respect. Some of them have no respect for the code of conduct, for the ethics of public service. Some of them lack that discipline. Even the way they talk to the public, they don't show the right manner. Then lack of patriotism by public servants. They don't show love of their country. They don't put their country first in discharging their duties. Then wasteful attitude of public servant. That's waste of manpower. You have many people that are redundant, that are wasting. Then some resources allocated to them are not well utilized. They are wasted. So these are some of the major problems faced by Nigerian public service. Okay, we have come to the end of this class. You can practice more past questions using the exam guide app. See you in next class. Bye.